Hello everyone and welcome back to the SMA Victor. Today we're diving into the science behind spinal muscular atrophy or SMA. Specifically, we're going to explain what causes SMA and how it affects the body. If you're ready to learn more, let's get started. Introduction to SMA. Spinal muscular atrophy is a genetic disorder that primarily affects the muscles used for movement. It's one of the most common genetic causes of death in infants, but it can also affect older children and adults depending on the type. But what exactly causes SMA? To answer that, we will need to look at the kind of genetics behind this condition. The role of genes in SMA. SMA is caused by mutations in a specific gene called SMN1, which stands for Survival Motor Neuron 1. This gene is responsible for producing a protein called SMN, which is essential for the survival of motor neurons. Motor neurons are nerve cells in the spinal cord that send signals from the brain to muscles enabling movement. In a healthy individual, the SMN1 gene produces enough SMN1 protein to keep motor neurons functioning properly. But in people with SMA, mutations in the SM1 gene prevent it from producing enough of this crucial protein. The impact of SMN protein deficiency. When there isn't enough SMN1 protein, motor neurons begin to deteriorate and eventually die. As these motor neurons die, the muscles they control weaken and atrophy, leading to progressive muscle weakness that characterizes SMA. The severity of muscle weakness varies depending on the type of SMA, which is largely determined by how much SMN1 protein is produced. The less SMN protein you have, the earlier and more severe the symptoms tend to be. Types of SMA and SMN2 gene. Now you might be wondering, if the SMN1 gene is mutated, is there any other way the body can produce SMN protein? The answer is yes, and that's where the SMN2 gene comes in. The SMN2 gene is like a backup of the SMN1 gene, but it's not as efficient. While the SMN2 gene also produces SMN protein, it mostly produces a shortened, less effective version. Only a small fraction of the SMN protein produced by SMN2 is functional. However, the number of SMN2 copies a person has can influence the severity of SMN. More copies of SMN2 can lead to a milder symptom because they provide a bit more of the functional SMN protein. Inheritance pattern of SMA. Now let's talk about how SMA is inherited. SMA follows an autosomal recessive inheritance pattern. This means that for a child to have SMA, they must inherit two mutated copies of the SMN1 gene, one from each parent. If both parents are carriers, there is a 25% chance that their child will have SMA. It's important to note that carriers usually don't show any symptoms because they still have one working copy of the SMN1 gene. But when two carriers have a child, there is a risk that the child will inherit this condition. Genetic testing and early diagnosis. With the advancement of genetic testing, it's now possible to determine if someone is a carrier of the SMA gene mutations. This is particularly important for family planning, as it allows couples to understand their risks and consider their options. In many places, newborn screening for SMA has also been implemented, allowing for early diagnosis and treatment. Early intervention is key in managing SMA, as starting treatment before symptoms appear can significantly improve outcomes. Summary and importance of awareness. So, to recap, SMA is caused by mutations in the SM1 gene, leading to a deficiency in SMN protein, which is crucial for motor neuron survival. The severity of the condition is influenced by the number of SMN2 gene copies a person has. While SMA is a genetic disorder passed down in an autosomal recessive pattern, genetic testing and early diagnosis can make a huge difference. Understanding the cause of SMA helps us appreciate the challenges faced by those living with the condition and the importance of continued research and support. By spreading awareness, we can contribute to a future where SMA is better understood and managed. Thank you so much for watching today's video on what causes SMA. That's all for today, folks. Subscribe to our channel and check the links within the description to learn more about SMA.